talk a little bit about the New Republic, because it really and sometimes I have a very hard time knowing how much it permeates people's consciousness. These type of things that are so relevant. I mean, obviously because we're in the media, and
Right.
but also the New Republic played a very big role in a couple of things. One being the sort of providing the supposed liberal cover for the Iraq War in many
Mm-hmm.
respects.
And Joe Lieberman in general, but the whole run up to that. Also giving Betsy McCoy a space to make up lies about Hillary Clinton's health care bill and then Barack Obama's health care bill, which
Right.
was.
And yes, they did endorse Joe Lieberman in '04 against even as not a Democrat, but also the most important thing is maybe I don't know if it's the most important, but thing is the bell
Right.
curve under
Well,
Andrew
they were.
Sullivan, and
Yes.
that was to even the liberal New
It was.
Republic. Well, go
Did
ahead.
this. That was always the statement. No, well, that was always the statement. Even in liberal New Republic supports. Basically, what they did is they played the role in sort of the literary, if you want to, or in sort of the smart political magazine role that Joe Lieberman and now Joe Manchin and people like them have played in the Democratic Party politically, or the DLC or places like that have played sort of in politics and philosophically and because they became a very sort of neoliberal magazine, and really starting in the 80s, because this was a magazine founded by progressives. It was founded in Teddy Roosevelt's living room. I mean, it was a very important progressive magazine for a long time, and then it started in the 80s, hiring some of these duds. Fred Barnes, for Christ's sake, was there for a while. And I would say it did a lot of damage in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, even Peter Beinart, which you're talking about the lead up to the Iraq War.
Yep.
But what I will say is over the last sort of half dozen years or so, at least it seemed to me, it had gotten a lot better and gotten a little closer back to its mission. And there were some very smart writers there, Alec McGillis and Noam Schreiber and some others
Jonathan
who I'd like
Cohn,
to go there.
Brian Beutler writes there. Rebecca Traister.
Well, when you say this, be careful to say we think they still write there. I don't know. I mean, so basically what happened was...
tell people, yes.
So what happened was that Chris Hughes, who is a co-founder of Facebook, bought it a couple of years ago, and I think that there were always sort of tensions there, but he brought in somebody to be a CEO there from Yahoo over the head of Franklin Foer, who is I think I'm pronouncing his name right, but he was an editor of the editor of the magazine who everybody there loved, and they decided that they want this to be more of a digital property that gets clicks than a magazine. Its role, of course, has always been as sort of a political philosophy and policy and arts and culture magazine. And now they're talking about moving it to New York and making it so that, they basically said people there, to everybody in their meeting, I guess last week or whatever, you should view it now like a tech startup.
Right.
And, a list, Ryan Leza, who writes for the New Yorker, and so it's not just them, by the way, it's also people that were there at one point or another or are contributing editors there. A good dozen of them, have asked them to take their names off the masthead. But I think they've had a walkout of about 20 or more people. Like right now, it's a ghost town there. I don't know who's still working for them. So, hint: if you have a subscription, you may want to cancel that now.
That's the thing is they were just pushing re-upping the subscription. And because I subscribe, obviously subscribe to a bunch of these different things, and I agree with you. I think since the post Marty Peretz days, and even in the waning days of Marty Peretz, there was some value there. It's interesting though, because what has also come out of this, like for instance, there was a little bit between Jonathan Chait and Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote something to the effect on Twitter. Wait a sec. I have it right in front of me, I think. He wrote, sorry whenever journalists lose jobs, but some of us colored folk will always remember TNR with mixed feelings, of course, because of that bell curve stuff.
The bell curve, right.
You can't really say, like, we're liberal. We just want you to know we're liberal, so we're looking at this, very objectively, but, black people may just have lower IQs. And genetically speaking, And Jonathan Chait was said, and here it is. He says, if you ever suffer serious misfortune, and I don't know who the person is. I mean, to make this analogy, who's going to suffer serious misfortune. Some journalists lost their jobs. I am not going to use it as an occasion to revisit a beef. I mean, that is so indicative of what was problematic with the New Republic. Like, you just have a beef with us.
You just have a problem with the story that defined an entire race as dumber.
Yeah, as mainstreaming the idea that you are genetically inferior. Okay, so
what's your peak? I mean, get over it, man.
Right,
come on,
man. Like, oh gosh, oh sorry.
Just smoke a joint. Don't all you people do that?
Right. I mean,
that's what Jonathan Chait should have said. I think Jonathan Chait has some good moments.
High five, right?
Exactly.
Don't be a jive turkey about this.
Yes.
Yeah,
we have a much broader legacy to consider. I mean,
well, but that's the amazing thing is that, and then if you bring up the notion of the bell curve or Iraq. And there's also, look, this is a very white.
I mean, it hugely damaged.
People say,
I'd say
but
one of the
that's,
big reasons we didn't
you
get
can't hold
with Bill and Hillary. It started off with that huge piece filled with lies by Betsy McCoy there, and everybody's saying, well, I mean, she wrote the New Republic. It must be true.
Right, and that was Andrew Sullivan, who was, I think, the editor at the time that went up. And if you say then, if you cite those examples, you hear back from them like, well, that was 20 years ago. Well, then, okay, so why are we lamenting this again? Because of its storied past, except for the parts that were not so storied? I mean,
yeah,
look,
I've done a listserv with people, and a whole bunch have said good riddance, and I understand why. I'm only lamenting in that I think there's some good people there that lost their jobs, and I feel sorry for them. I think also that it had come back a little bit more to its true mission that it had up through the 70s, where it had some great pieces on progressive economics and which is what it started off as a progressive magazine, which back in the early 20th century was mostly about economic issues, and they had a lot of that kind of stuff going on. But I also, when we have these conversations, I always like to sort of, look at it in sort of a meta way and the broader implications of these things.
Right.
And I think broader implication here is you've got, or billionaires, or I don't know what Chris Hughes, I think he only has $700 million, so he can't get that third Lamborghini. Actually, he can. But I think that that the very wealthy with their own agendas basically coming in and buying up everything, which essentially includes politicians, real estate
But wait a second. Listen, the bottom line is the New Republic has lost money for a long time. This is one of those situations where it's like, what shocks me is like, dude, you got $700 million.
Why? Me too, exactly.
Why? Like, if you're going to get in, first off,
you buy that magazine for its prestige. You don't buy it to make money.
Right. And it's like, also, you know what? If you want to make money, here's what you should not do. Get involved with media. Like, if you want to make money, go buy a factory that is making, toothpicks and just undercut and come up with just a quicker rate, whatever. There's so many other ways to actually make money. What I don't understand is that, if I was a guy with $700 million, money
would kind of be the last thing on my mind at that point.
If I'm going to buy a media property like that, what I'm going to do is make what the people perceive as the New Republic. Like, I would make something like that. Like, this is not going to make any money. The interesting thing, to take this
into
meta,
money like that, I would at least sink $200 million into the Majority Report.
Michael's just pointing at me like, I do that now with the Majority Report.
I'd put the money into the Majority Report. I'd get it on TV. It would be nationwide, and no one could ignore it.
Or what you could do is just on a lark, put all your money into turning the New Republic into a Palestinian advocacy journal just to make Marty Peretz finally have his brain explode in a final meltdown.
Right. Then you could switch it up every other month.
Two versions of that journal and send it to Marty Peretz and Joe Lieberman.
There's so much more interesting things to do than to make the next BuzzFeed, which incidentally ain't going to happen. I mean, that's the
No.
other thing is like there is no going from the New Republic to the next BuzzFeed.
You need a new property where you bring in all like-minded people that are going for a BuzzFeed thing, but also that need to find, well, what's the next thing? Huffington Post did what they did, whether you like it or not. I'm not judging right now.
Right.
We can have that conversation another time. But the Huffington Post did what it did and found the way to get traffic. And then from that, some of the guys who've been involved with it went and turned it up to 11, so to speak, with BuzzFeed. And I'd say Upworthy is another outgrowth of that. But now if you want to do something like that, if that's what your goal is, as he said, a tech startup, a digital property, there are ways to do that. You don't do that with the New Republic. I mean, that's not what, that's not what the New Republic is, and that's not what the skill set is of anybody there. So I'm not sure why you'd even be upset that most people resign, because you can't work with they're there to do journalism, a lot of it long-form journalism, and that kind of stuff.
Well,
it doesn't make any sense to me. That's all.
Ezra Klein had a really interesting piece about the difference between I think he called it divergent and convergent strategies. A convergent strategy is one, and this is what interests me. I mean, just in the context of this show, and I should say, we were going to start our Indiegogo campaign today, but we just couldn't get it together yet, and so we're going to hopefully launch
it Monday.
Monday.
Honestly need to stop fucking around.
No, you're not kidding. But here is. But this is what struck me, because I never thought about it this way. But when I think when we talk about what differentiates this show from other shows out there in the similar vein, he talked about convergent and divergent sort of strategies in media. And the convergent one online is you use internet best practices, which means you optimize your search engine headlines, and you do stories, you cover stories that you determine not based upon what you want to do, but what is already happening out there. So the way that they determine what is going to be on the front page of BuzzFeed or a lot of these places, or Huffington Post, is they
watch what's trending. I mean, there literally are guys who sit there all day and see what everybody on Reddit is doing, see what through Google, they see who's getting hits and that's what they do.
And they do A/B testing and et cetera, et cetera. And what the New Republic did, and in some instances I had a problem with it, or at least in this context, what it was set up that it could do was to be divergent, which is we're just going to put out there what we want to put out there, and hopefully we will have an audience. And the best way to do that is if you're not as concerned with becoming a billion-dollar market capitalization media product. And if you have $700, $800 million, what's the point of having that if you're still having to chase it? Right?
I want to say two things to this.
But that's said like a guy who's not going to have $700 million. I mean, let's be honest, folks. I don't want to break anybody's hearts here, but Sam Seder is not going to be a $700 million.
You fool yourself.
Well, that's what the Indiegogo is for, to get you there.
First of all, the Indiegogo will probably bring in $100 million. Second of all, I've seen you when you're in Vegas.
And then I'm going to take it to Vegas.
How you gamble, and one of these times I see $700 million coming your way.
Definitely.
It's inevitable. But to me, the two things are this. First of all, you also, what's going on out there, you can create sort of a hybrid. That's what I feel like the Daily Beast is, where I write. Which is they have, I think, some very good coverage of some issues and good columns and columnists. But yes, you also get, hey, look, here's the brushed up version of Kim Kardashian's enormous ass, and they'll have that on the side, and I'm sure that helps bring traffic. That is a possibility. I don't think it is for the New Republic. Again, the Daily Beast was created out of nothing. The New Republic has its brand, and it's not that.
Right, and the thing is, like. The point is you're sitting there, you've got $700 million, you've got this brand, you're as well situated as anybody on the spectrum of everything to just do something that is like, we're going to do something that is just, it's really interesting, and maybe we can get to break even. I mean, why else,
Right. That's what we're trying to do, and otherwise, first of all, what are you doing? I mean, give me $700 million, the life that I would live. I mean,
well, he's a young guy. No, I appreciate that that somebody wants to go in and make something that is important, but I don't know. And I guess maybe
but
that's how you.
But that's what he's not. Clearly, that's not what he's doing. And
Right.
that's. I mean, what I would have done. Let's say, so if I thought that if I had $700 million and I thought the New Republic was something that was crappily owned, I could buy it, bring in people who are more progressive, who are more true to their mission, who wrote better journalism. I would do all of that, and I would step out of the damn way and let people who I thought were good enough to run it.
I would be
it.
in there. I mean, look, I have no problem with somebody buying something and then meddling with it. That's fine.
Well, I
But
don't
it's just
either.
like,
I just wouldn't because I'd be
what a
lying on an
waste.
island somewhere.
what a waste, and not like what I'd want to sit in there and just watch everybody. I mean, that's theoretically why you do it, right? It's like, I'm going to finally get a chance. I was never good as a baseball player as a kid, but I'm going to buy a team and I'm going to hang out on the field and I'm going to make these guys play catch with me before the game, and that's great. That's great. I mean,
I mean that's cool if that's what you want. I would buy it just hopefully to make it a good magazine and do something positive, and then I would head off to my beach place on St. John.
Well, all I'm saying is that when I get my $100 million from this Indiegogo campaign, yes. I don't know if there's a baseball team I can buy. Maybe I'll buy a minor league one, and I'll go out there and I'll play catch with these guys all the time, and they're gonna have to like pretend like, wow, oh man, when I throw the ball into the glove,
you might be able to turn into a backup second
Sam, can
baseman.
you back off that heat, man? Because I don't want to.
Why not just purchase the Cyclones?
Maybe that's what I'll do. But
We're
the
in
Indiegogo
Brooklyn now.
there, he's too busy picking fights on Twitter with people. So I don't. He might be able to play.
But I mean, I found that. I mean, because I think on this show we always I think we tend to have we're going to have a more limited appeal. I like to think of it as we're more exclusive.
You are very
that
exclusive.
if you don't like a certain narrow band of what we're going to talk about, then you're going to have to leave. If you're looking for, Kim Kardashian, is she still popular?
She's still relevant.
There's an
yeah.
enormous picture of her ass that was out there recently,
Okay.
all greased up, and it was actually
Cliff's sort of commentary on that on various streams of social media was very interesting. And I've never seen someone so eloquently connect gun control with Kim Kardashian's ass before. It was very impressive, Cliff.
Did you really do that?
I like to find the common themes between large greased asses and guns.
Well,
do that.
My point is, I know that we lost a little bit of search engine optimization by never covering Kim Kardashian. But honestly, if she was sitting here, presumably she would be fully clothed, but if she was sitting here across from us, I wouldn't know who she was. And so it's just not happening. And so I don't really spend too much
That's
time.
awesome.
Oppose
I can tell
means
you I would
testing
have
for
no
Social
idea
Security,
who
young lady?
that dumbass family is, and maybe I might know who she is because,
Exactly.